Today I'm going to focus on the word enlarging, which in my mind is the first step to expand the heart, which I think is the real challenge today, given the constant assault on our senses and the desensitization I think all of us have experienced to the world around us. Elsewhere, I've used the word expand to suggest a kind of map for the process of transformation, the path of healing and growing. Expanding is the whole heart drama with all the twists and turns and unexpected complications of good theater, and it is largely limbic, emotional, of the heart. In this map, the E in expand stands for enlarging. When we are stuck, withered, we have tunnel vision. We are a rat in a cage. Or worse, we're a rat in a cage full of cat hair. Stuck in panic, grief, fear, rage, shame, or hopelessness, all those adverse emotions. We show up in our life as chaotic and frantic or rigid, isolated, and self-contained. So our state has to first change before we can find our way to freedom. Enlarging is the first step. If you were fortunate enough to have had a good enough childhood, then you've had times when you've accessed the feeling of being alive, with a sense of real agency, fully embodied in your life. It may be relatively painless to reconnect the positive mammalian emotional circuits such as play, curiosity, and loving connection. Those are all helpful states. Unfortunately, we live in a largely traumatized society, so accessing those emotions may not be so easy. So enlarging, we first need to find our way to a state of mind, body, and heart that allows us to get beyond our captivity, and that may require professional guidance, a lot of support, and maybe even a map. I'm thinking we don't have a very good language to talk about this state that allows us to enlarge. It helps me to think of the elephant explored by blind people. Depending on the perspective, it may appear like a collection of radically different animals, but it's all the same elephant. So from one perspective, let's consider your insides, your internal experience. As an individual, internally, you may locate and find a state of mindfulness, a kind of being loving playfulness, the ability to sometimes be aware of thoughts, feelings, sensations without becoming them. Mindfulness. Ultimately, I think mindfulness eventually answers the question, who am I? And the answer, I am awareness, or even I am awareness of my awareness. As Jon Kabat-Zinn describes it, mindfulness is paying attention to the moment-by-moment unfolding of internal experience without acting on thought or impulse, and not judging the experience. This sometimes feels like you've become an awakened, very present child. Using the elephant analogy from a different external perspective, examining an individual lovingly working in the world, we might notice a committed craftsman fostering a state of flow. Flow allows creativity and spontaneity, allows us to be mindful and mindless. Like mindfulness, being in the zone is something we can practice and pursue. And we very well might want to do that because it's curiously pleasurable and seems intrinsically purposeful. Stephen Pressfield had asked, if I was the last person on earth, would I still do it? Meaning, would I engage in this work, in my art? If there is a state of flow, unless resistance interferes, the answer is always yes. Another perspective, when we are in relationship, we enter a very similar state to mindfulness and flow. Sometimes it's called attunement. This is an emotional, physical, mental state that allows the possibility of healing and growing into something that attachment researchers call earned, secure attachment. Quoting Dr. Fisher from Healing the Fragmented Selves of Trauma Survivors, attunement is co-created and unintentional in its unfolding, emerges from repeated moments of felt resonance, speaking the same language. Like mindfulness and flow, to be a committed lover is both intentional and something you don't control. If in mindfulness being an awakened, very present child answers the question, who am I? Being in flow, committed to our art, answers the question, what work is most important to me? Being a committed lover in attunement answers the question, who will go with me into my life? Committed to our healing. Lastly, another perspective, another word we give to a state that is inherently enlarging is spirituality, sacredness. To see the world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wild flower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand and in eternity in an hour. Blake is definitely not talking religion, which is largely a cognitively based system of beliefs and practices. The spirit, the spiritual, is limbic. Our nervous system is connected to the world and to other living beings. We become larger than ourselves. So what's the point, the central point? We need to find and immerse ourselves in states that allow us to enlarge. We need to find practices that reinforce these states. To expand is dependent on this. What states are you attending to?